Welcome to Vet Fraternity. In this video, we are going to talk about one of the most important topics in canine and feline veterinary ophthalmology regarding Neville exam, that is anterior uveitis. So let's begin with this. Before jumping to the disease in itself, you need to know a little bit of anatomy. We have three structures that make the uveal tract: iris, ciliary body, and chorioid. This is iris, this is ciliary body, and this portion is chorioid. Iris and ciliary body together make anterior uveal tract, and its inflammation is called as anterior uveitis. Ciliary body and chorioid together make the posterior uveal tract, and its inflammation is called as posterior uveitis. When all three structures are in the inflammation, they are called as that is called as panuveitis. Anterior uveitis, which is like most commonly condition. Posterior uveitis is seen very rarely. So the definition of anterior uveitis is: it is broadly defined as a breakdown of the uveal blood ocular barrier resulting in abnormal presence of protein, WBCs, RBCs, and other compounds in the aqueous humor of the vitreous. Basically, what they are talking about is that just like we have blood-brain barrier, blood testicle barriers, similarly in the eye, we have blood ocular barrier, that the blood cells cannot enter in the ocular or the eye. But when this barrier is being broken, the protein from the blood, WBCs, RBCs, and other components are going to enter in the aqueous humor or the vitreous. That is the other name for aqueous humor. The signalement is very important. Dog and cat at any age, any gender, and any breed can have this disease. When an animal is going to come to you, it is going to have, like, the owner is going to explain some of the signs that they are seeing at home. So that makes the history of the patient. In history, you are going to have ocular pain because of photophobia and bleharospasm. Because an eye that has uveitis is going to be severely photophobic. These animals cannot open their eyes in the light, either sunlight, tube light, anything. And the other thing is bleharospasm, which is spasm or involuntary blinking and closing of the eye. Next we have is cloudy eye, red eye, consistent with conjunctival hyperemia. So these changes in eye colors can be seen. Epiphora, that is increased tear production or seromucoid discharge. Third eyelid elevation and diminished vision are seen. As a doctor, when you will do the ophthalmic examination at veterinary hospital, what you are going to see? You are going to see aqueous flare and meiosis. What is aqueous flare? I'm going to tell you this in a separate slide because it is the pathognomic sign for the uveitis. Second is meiosis. You should remember it is the only disease in ophthalmology that is going to have meiosis. Otherwise, all other diseases are having mydriasis. So it's a differential point basically. Corneal edema is going to present corneal vascularization, intraocular inflammatory cells that is called that are being seen as keratic precipitates. Because in the previous slide we have talked about that the blood ocular barrier breaks and all the WBCs, which are inflammatory cells, they start to enter the eye, and these are seen as keratic precipitates because they will stick with the eye. Like, let me show you the image of keratic precipitates. Do you see this image over here? These all are keratic precipitates. Similarly, this all area, this is keratic precipitates, that the inflammatory cells are going to stick with the cornea, and these precipitates are going to be formed. Next is hypopyon, WBCs, the presence of WBCs in the in the eye, hyphemia, the presence of blood in the eye, fibrin is going to be present there. Then ocular hypotension. In the case of uveitis, you are going to see IOP, intraocular pressure, is going to be dropped less than 10 mm of mercury. But sometimes in the case of uveitis, very rarely, or like with like sequela, you are going to have increased IOP, because in later on, if this disease is not being treated, glaucoma starts to happen in the eye. So if secondary glaucoma starts to appear, the IOP is going to be high. Otherwise, the pathognomy, or like the characteristic of the anterior uveitis, is that it is going to have low IOP. Synechiawhat is synechiae? We have discussed that in the previous video. That is adherence of the iris either with the cornea or with the lens. Because it's an anterior uveitis, so definitely the iris is going to be attached with the cornea. Uh, there is but like with the lens it can also attach. It's not like a hard and fast rule, but still you can see synechia anterior or posterior both. Next is iris change. It is very important thing regarding paper point of view. Iris change: reddening, darkening, depigmentation, thickening, or iris bombay. All of these iris changing changes can occur. Talking about like color change, you should remember in exam they might ask you, they might give you an history that there is a dog that has its eye color change from blue to green color. So what is the condition? They may give you in options cataract, glaucoma, anterior uveitis, nuclear sclerosis, or anything like that. So you should remember that the iris color changes happens only with is like specific for like anterior uveitis. So if so that's the thing. And what is iris bombay over here? Let's discuss that. Do you see this diagram? This is synechia, that the iris is being attached or adhered with the lens. This is posterior synechia, but because of this synechia, what is happening? The iris is bowing inside. So this is called as iris bombay, and in real life picture, it looks like this. Then, just like secondary glaucoma, secondary cataract can also happen in this animal. What is aqueous flare? Aqueous flare is basically uh, like it is a pathognomic sign for anterior uveitis, and due to breakdown of the blood aqueous barrier, release of proteins or cells into the anterior chamber from the iridial or ciliary vessels. So what happens that uh, this blood aqueous barrier breaks and the proteins and cells are seen in the anterior chamber of eye, and this is seen through a light. This is called a slit lamp view of the eye, that the light is shown, and in that light you can see these cells or proteins. It is called as Tyndall effect. And how it looks like in the like when as an ophthalmologist, when you will view the eye of an animal, how it will look like. Do you see this picture? This is a picture of dust particles that are seen in the sunlight. Like if you are sitting in a room in a summer day, and light is being shown into the room, in those rays of the sunlight, you can see the dust particles in the room, just like the image of those dust particles. Similarly, the proteins or cells that are released in the anterior chamber of the eye are seen in this slit lamp view inside the eye, that is called as aqueous flare or Tyndall effect. What are the causes for anterior uveitis? It can be idiopathic, it can be intraocular, like cataract or intraocular trauma can lead to uveitis. Infections. For that, we have a mnemonic of four F's, T and B. Feline leukemia, immunodeficiency virus, FIP, fungal cryptococcus is most common, toxoplasma, Bartonella, or Brucella. These infections caused uveitis. Neoplastic lymphoma, then these all are the causes that that predispose animal to uveitis. Then we have a diagnosis. For diagnosis, you have to look for the cause. You have to take a complete history and physical exam. You can perform CBC, chemistry, urinalysis, but these are going to be like unremarkable like that. Serology for infectious causes to rule out infections. Thoracic radiographs to rule out these neoplastic issues. You can perform abdominal ultrasounds to see any FIP or any lymphoma or something like that. And in the last, you can perform aquasynthesis with cytology to see the presence of proteins and all of that. But aquasynthesis is done in the last, because it's you can say, for that you have to take the sample from the eye, and it's kind of invasive technique, so we perform it in the last, because we try to rule out things from these tests. But still, you should remember one thing over here: even after you perform these, all of these, they you might not come to any conclusion, because of this thing. 50 to 70% of anterior uveitis cases are idiopathic. So you might perform CBC, it's okay, chemistry, that is fine, urinalysis, no issues, no infections, no tumors. So you might not end up into any conclusion from these tests. So that those cases are going to be idiopathic, and that's a major cause for anterior uveitis. Then comes the treatment. First, you have to treat the underlying cause if found and if possible. After that, you begin topical treatment. But before topical treatment, you always do fluorescent stain to confirm that there is no ulcer present. You might take this statement as very light, but this statement is very important for paper point of view. They might give you a case scenario in which they give you everything like the pathognomic signs of anterior uveitis, like they have given you aqueous flare and everything like that. And after that, they may ask you for your next step. In the next step, like next step for the treatment, and option A might be do fluorescent stain. Option B might be start steroid. Option C might be do something else. So you are not going to jump on like application of steroids. You have to confirm. So option A is correct, because you have to first confirm there is no ulcer present there. So before beginning of the topical treatment, always do fluorescent staining, because steroids are contraindicated in case of uh, ulcers. So you are going to use a contraindicated drug there. So that said, topic then you can go for like topical steroid or NSAID, that's given every 6 to 12 hours with or without antibiotics. Topical steroids can be prednisolone or dexamethasone. Moderate to severe cases, for this is used for moderate to severe cases, but topical NSAIDs in case of mild cases, or along with steroid in very severe cases. So normally moderate to severe cases we go for steroids, but if the case is very mild or if the case is very severe, in case of mild cases, you are going to use NSAIDs alone, and if there is like very severe case, add NSAIDs with steroids. Next we have is mydriatic agent atropine every like once or twice a day. This is because they cause like the dilation of the eye, and they stop the spasm, and they relieve the pain of the eye. So that's why atropine is being used. But make sure IOP is low or normal, not high. Oral steroids. Uh, Oral steroids can be used, but do not use oral steroids if infections are present. If there is no infection present, go for oral steroid. Otherwise, you will flare up like infections like feline herpes virus or anything like that. Oral steroids or oral NSAIDs can be used concurrently with topical steroids or topical NSAIDs. So if you are using topical NSAIDs and steroids, you can use oral ones also. For example, it is safe to treat with topical prednisolone and oral carprofen. So they have given you a combination. If you are topically using prednisolone, you can use orally carprofen. If secondary glaucoma is there, that means IOP is normal or high, then you can give topical dorzolamide or timolol every 8 to 12 hours. Basically, like dorzolamide, timolol are treatments for like glaucoma. We are going to discuss that when we will study glaucoma. But definitely, if uveitis has progressed and it is converted into glaucoma, then you have to use the drugs that will lower the IOP, because now the IOP is higher. Okay. So that was about the treatment. Next thing is prognosis. Prognosis depend upon underlying cause and chronicity. With prompt and aggressive treatment, most immune mediated and idiopathic uveitis respond well. Idiopathic case may recur despite therapy. So for idiopathic case, if you have treated a case, you must tell the owner that this episode of uveitis may recur. If prognosis for VN is poor, enucleation can relieve the pain. So if the eye is not like recovered or came back to its normal scenario, you can go for opt for enucleation to relieve the pain. But there are some sequela to anterior uveitis. Number one is synechia. Anterior or posterior, any synechia can happen. The other thing is retinal degeneration. We will discuss this disease in detail in further videos. Lymphatisis bulbae, it's the end stage of eye. We will also discuss this in the following video. Then glaucoma, it can also happen. Rubiosis iridis, it is a formation of new abnormal blood vessels on the surface of the iris. So it can happen, and blindness can happen. So these all are the sequela of anterior uveitis. That was all about anterior uveitis. I hope you enjoyed the lecture and understood it well, because it is one of the most important topics that might appear in your NAVLE exam. Best of luck for your preparation. Thank you so much.